Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome, or hopefully it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Listening Mentor. I'm actually celebrating a couple of milestones today. It was 5 months ago when we launched USA Global TV, and we have accomplished so much and grown so much in those 5 months. It's hard to believe. And today, when I finish broadcasting in about 3 hours, I will have completed 1,234 shows in less than 2 years. It might even be 18 months. I'm not sure. So thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spreading the word and letting people know about us. It just is tremendous. We have 2 people backstage who are really tremendous. They are certified elevated listeners and so much more. I'm going to be bringing them out in just a moment. We're going to be talking about the power of listening. Before we do that, I have 2 quick announcements that I want to share as I look for my graphic. The first is we have a new show coming. It's a game show, and it features only people who have been certified as elevated listeners and belong to our elevated listening community. What does this mean? It's a game show to see and hear how well they listen. This is what the show graphic looks like. Who's listening? And it features, again, certified elevated listeners and members of the elevated listening community. To become an elevated listener, you take 1 course. It's 2.5 hours long. It's called The Power of Listening. It's $257. And then you take a quiz of 7 questions. And when you pass, you become certified, and you get featured on drjacalyn.com as well as USA Global TV as a team member. Our elevated listening community is a group where you will receive a link to a guided meditation led by one of my guests backstage, Heward, and you also get fitness tips, listening tips, and much more. So then once you qualify to be on the show will be 15 weeks long. There'll be 3 groups of people, and you will be competing against each other. Each week, people will be disqualified because they weren't listening. And at the end, we will have 3 people who will have the ability to pick a prize. One of the prizes I am donating is a license to be a talking head, one of our expert presenters. It has a retail value of $6,000. You obviously have to qualify as an expert in your field for 5 years and have great presentation skills. So that's one of the offerings. So stay tuned for that. So let's get back to the show. Let's get on to the show. Joining me now is the Harley Street stress expert, Heward. She is here every week on a Friday night there in London, just donating her time and all of her experience to help make us better personally and professionally. Welcome, Caroline.
Always a pleasure to be here, Dr. JACALYN.
So nice to see you again. You're looking radiant in your blue.
Oh, thank you. It's one of my colors.
Well, you wear it well. And I'm excited that we have a guest today. This is only the second time we've actually had a guest on this particular program, because you and I get so involved in conversation. I think we really get pretty deep here, just not about just listening, but relationships, anxiety. So before I go on, I want to spotlight you and have you share with people joining us for the first time, what is Harley Street? Where is Harley Street? And what does a stress expert do? And then we'll bring out our guest.
Well, I call myself the Harley Street stress expert because in London and known in Europe, Harley Street is the famous street for good doctors, very established and qualified doctors, and people that are doing alternative complementary therapies. So I decided that if I was going to be a therapist, I would work from the best street that's known in Europe and in London. Why stress expert? Well, I've been doing my stress expert work for 22 years. I started in 2000. And what do? Well, if you are complaining about something, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, behavioral, whether you have relationship issues, whether there's a bereavement issue, whether there's anger management issues, whether there's a physical or emotional ache and pain, that's what I can help you with. I identify root cause, and literally you will feel calm, relaxed, and have an incredible night's sleep. After a free consultation, I'm offering a free 30-minute stress buster. So take advantage of that by emailing me at NoMoreStress@live.co.uk.
Thank you, Caroline. You know, we're going to be talking with our guest, Hajar. She's going to be joining us, and she's really an expert when it comes to etiquette and so many other things. And to me, etiquette and listening skills really do tie together very nicely, don't they?
Absolutely, yes.
I'm going to bring her out now to have her share more about that, because I feel like in this world with everything going on, we've had so many mass shootings in this country, in the United States, and obviously a war going on. We've had a pandemic. People are frustrated. They're filled with anxiety. They're stressed out to the max, and they're not listening. When we're not listening, we can't be respectful to someone else. So therefore, we're not showing up with our manners and our etiquette, and then things just start to spiral and go out of control. And the next thing you know, you're besieged with phone calls, which I know are great. You want to have help as many people as possible, and the same thing with our guest Hajar. But it's nice if we can take steps ourselves to be better, to be more present, to be more respectful, and to have less judgment. And to me, that really will help make a difference in our world. All right. I want to, without further ado, I want to bring out Hajar. She is a teacher and an etiquette consultant. She was on our show, The Power of Etiquette and Manners, recently. And I reached out to her and I said, I'd love to have you on our team. And the first way to start is to become a certified elevated listener. And within, I think, 24 hours, done, finished. I love people like this. Let us welcome to the show, Hajar. I know I'm not going to say it right. Hajar Abu. Wrong. I know it's wrong. Tell us how to say your name.
Hello, good evening from the Netherlands. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you live. My name is Hajar Aituaba. Well, you were pretty close, so it takes a little practice. Thank you very much again for inviting me on this lovely show. I'm very delighted to be here, and it seems like Blue Friday today, so Blue Listening Friday.
And Hajar, you're in the Netherlands. Is that Central European time?
Around, what time is it right now? It's about 8 p.m. in the Netherlands. It's still very light. The sun is still shining, but in a way, it's pretty dark at home. So I tried to fix a little bit of my lightnings, but unfortunately, it didn't work. So I'm still working on that.
Well, you look great and you sound great. Thank you for being here. It's wonderful.
You're very welcome.
I was just saying to Caroline, to me, there seems to be an integration of listening skills and having manners and etiquette. And for so long, I was one of those people who thought that manners and etiquette were the way you sat at a table or held a door for someone, or how your place settings were. But it's so much more than that. I'm going to spotlight you, and then we'll have a conversation between the three of us. Why are etiquette and manners important to you, and how does listening skills, how do they align with that?
Well,
yes, go ahead.
Okay, etiquette and manners are really important to me for the simple reason because it brought me the things I wanted. If you lack manners, if you lack etiquette, if you're not nice to people, being impolite, that's a thing that will really isolate you from the other people and the world, because you need to work together with other people. And yes, sometimes you work with nice people, sometimes with people with whom you don't have a click. But at the end of the day, we have to work together to make this world a better place. And I think, especially if you're not really good with someone, etiquette and manner, that is a solution, to keep that relationship, how do you say that? To keep that relationship, to maintain the relationship, at the end of the day, you need to work together. And listening a skill, I have never heard about listening courses or training. So it's the very first time when I read the course on your website. I started reading and I was like, this is interesting, because I do hear personally from people that listening is not one of my that listening is not one of my strongest points, and I used to disagree on that because I used to answer questions. And when I start thinking about it and reflecting, I realized that they were right, actually, because I am not a good listener. And I started reflecting about the conflicts I used to have throughout my life. And actually, it was all because of lack of listening, especially during an argument with someone. For me, I was busy. Instead of listening to other people, their feelings, I was busy with my response. In my head, I was busy with, I wanted to attack back, like back. And it's something also we see in the world right now. There are wars going on. We see it in politics in the Netherlands. When I watch a political debate between, for example, a politician who asks a question about, for example, are the taxes going to increase in 2023? And the minister is not really answering the question. The minister starts giving a seminar about taxes without answering the question, and then the politician starts asking the question again. And in the Netherlands, it's actually only allowed to ask 3 times a question as a politician. And I started analyzing it, and I realized this is the problem. People are not listening to each other. We see the person who was asking the question very frustrated, and also the minister who is not answering the question. And it starts, if the politicians who are our examples, who are serving the country, are not giving the good example, what do we expect actually from other people? So, yeah.
Well said. Thank you so much for sharing that. You hit on a lot of great points. We do have a couple of comments, and I think it's from a new viewer. I don't recognize this name. So welcome and thank you. Archana Sharma. Character of one person is depicted through one's etiquettes and manners. And also, listening is important to resolve all issues to begin new association. Thank you so much for commenting. We'd love to know where you're joining us from if you put that in the chat. So, Caroline, I'm going to ask you to put your thoughts based on working with people with stress and anxiety, etc. And where does listening fit in when you're trying to address those issues that can be very pervasive in someone's life?
Well, one of the first things that happens when we're stressed is that we go up into the mind and we start thinking. So we're actually in a conversation of our own in the mind, and no one else is privileged to know what's going on in terms of your personal conversation, your inner conversation. So then you're not listening to anyone or even yourself, because when you're stressed, then there is a combat conversation in the mind, which is I call it the inner critic, where there's, oh, you can do that. No, you can't. You're not good enough. Oh, well, if I don't do that, then I can't do this. And there's like a whole dialogue, like a whole soap opera, a movie that's going on up there. And no one else hears it or understands what's going on. So you become very preoccupied and you're busy in your personal mind conversation. And when somebody's asking you a question, you just don't hear them. So that can cause you a lot of problems when you're in a work situation, in your relationships, and with your family. And the other thing that's important to realize is that when we're stressed and it comes out in our relationships, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, it actually has an impact on the other person and on our health. So there are many aspects that being stressed and anxious means that we've escaped into our mind and we're not being present. And when you're in the mind, you cannot be listening because there's other dialogue going on that's your own personal dialogue. So you become separate. One of the other things that's important to realize is that the mind and body actually connects. And when we're depressed or anxious, whether it's mind or body, it's a dialogue. Our body is always talking to us.
Absolutely. You caught me thinking. I think the first thing before we start learning listening to others is starting to listen to ourselves, to our bodies, to our mind, setting boundaries. I work as a school teacher. I do have many kids. Everybody wants something from you, and sometimes it's very hard to divide my attention. And what I do, I try to set boundaries on it. That I have, okay, this is a 10-minute working time for you, no questions. And from the second part, between this time and this time, you might ask your question or write it down, but also to set boundaries for myself. Because if, they come all around you, miss, I want you to do this for me. What's this? What's that? It's pretty hard to divide yourself into 100 pieces. I think that's something I started doing for myself. But it's about listening to yourself, to your body, and also being present when someone talks to you, and set boundaries if you don't have time to listen to someone. Sometimes I do have a friend who calls in, I need to talk with you for 5 minutes, and it's about 2 hours later, and I bet I haven't received all the information that she's sending to me, because in the meanwhile I'm doing a lot of things. So I think setting boundaries is a very important thing to do.
Something that I do talk about, if you're doing something and you're distracted doing something else, so if you're in a telephone conversation but you're actually reading emails, it means that you're not reading emails and you're not on the telephone call. You're actually not present in either. And that can create severe breakdowns in listening skills, because the other person might be asking you a question and you didn't hear them because you're reading the email. It's impossible to listen, think, and read. You can only do one at a time. You can't read and listen because it doesn't work. And boundaries is really, really good. It's absolutely critical to have good boundaries, because if you haven't, then you're everything to everyone and nothing to yourself.
Absolutely. I do really agree on that. And what I'm also I have been taught when I was a kid, ladies are multitask. We can do everything. We can listen, pick up the phone, do the dishes at one time. And I've never been good at it, and it made me a little insecure, because I see my mom all the time multitasking and still active listening. I think it's an art. I'm really surprised about that. But if you really think about it, it's not okay to be doing so many things at the same time, and that's what causes stress and anxiety. And I've been suffering for that. A few years ago, I felt that, and from time to time as well. And definitely the course of Dr. JACALYN, it was confronting. It was there were things I could relate. It was like, oh, this is so me and a friend, and yeah,
Yes, it can make or break friendships and relationships.
absolutely.
Because you can ask a question. I mean, there's sitcoms, isn't there, about where there's the couple and the guys saying, and maybe I ought to do a striptease, maybe I ought to, paint my face a purple. And she's going, yeah, okay. And it's because she hasn't heard anything.
Well,
And then, sort of this is the game of the other person is aware they're not being listened to.
absolutely. That's a pretty good point that you're bringing in, because I do recognize myself in that, because especially in the early morning, when people start asking me, "Can you do this or fix that?" I always say something like yes, but I say yes to get rid of them, because I don't want people to be talking to me in the early morning. It's too early, and then lately in the afternoon, have you done this or this for me? And I said, "You never asked me." Well, we did. And for me, it's like because and they said, and I tell them, when did you ask me about it? This morning. Yeah, I don't recognize. Sometimes I deny it, because in my head, I've never heard about it, about the question in my head, and they got frustrated, because, but we have asked you and you said yes, and I answered with impossible, uh, absolutely not, and it used to be very frustrating, because in my head I've never heard that question, and they are really convinced about the fact that they did ask that question, and being aware of this problem. I mean, I started being aware of this part. It makes me think about what to do instead of saying yes or something. The appointment that I have made, never ask me something in the early morning, because I still woke up, I need my coffee. Try it later on in the afternoon, do it by email. At least you would have like hard proof. I do read my emails, but don't start telling me, asking me, can we, and because it's easy for me to say yes, just to get rid, because I don't want to hear that person or not ready. And if you are aware of that, I think you can win a lot.
Well, that's good boundaries. I was literally going to say, and then you said it's like you read my mind. I was going to say, some people can't function unless they've had their coffee.
Well, absolutely.
And that's something that the other person is not aware of unless you say. And so it's being authentic, standing in your own authenticity and in your integrity by saying, I can't do anything until I've had my cup of coffee. Let's have a conversation after a couple of hours, when I've woken up. And that is setting extraordinarily kind and grand boundaries for you and for the other person. And that means that they're aware it's not a good time to speak to you in the morning, unless they want to be cute and say, hey, you agreed to everything that, these are all the things you agreed to, because you don't know. This is the stuff of sitcoms.
Yes, absolutely. So what were your outcomes from the course of Dr. JACALYN? What's the real eye-opener for you? Or what was the real eye-opener for you?
Well, because of the work that I do, I would say that I was an active listener. That is, something that I do. So I hear even the non-verbal communication, because our body is always gesturing. And so if somebody says something like, let me just do it. Yes, I'm really, really happy to be involved in your project. I really want to get involved. The head is saying no, but the verbal is saying yes. And it's the non-verbal communication that we actually take more notice of, only we don't say. And so it's that's the perception part of it, that if we are looking at the person that's speaking, then we can tell if they're being genuine. You know, if they're shaking their head like this in a no, and they're saying yes, you know they mean no. You know, because
Yes.
the physiology is the loudest speaking. You know, that is the communication that steps over the verbal. And so the biggest thing for me was really the uncomfortableness of witnessing when somebody wasn't listening. You know, actually getting into a real step of observation and people actually observing me. It was kind of a little bit, you know, under the spotlight. And there were a few of the role plays that I actually considered, do you know what, I could smarten that bit up a bit, you know, and as a consequence of that, it made me question, was I really always actively listening? Because sometimes when I'm in a call, for instance, to my mum, she just wants to tell me stuff. She doesn't want me to solve stuff. She just wants to tell me about her day. Yeah. And then she feels like she's communicated, instead of me saying, oh, Mum, if you just do that and just do this, you know, that will sort out that. But she doesn't want me to say that. And sometimes my mum will say to me, just listen to me. And it really, you know, it really brings home to me that, you know, even though my mum didn't do the course, you know, she doesn't want me to solve something. She only wants me to hear what she's saying, and then she feels relaxed. So in our family situations, sometimes we forget that. We are all human at the end of the day, and sometimes we forget all they want to do. They just want to say, and they want you to listen without needing to solve anything.
Absolutely. No, you are right. And it's funny that you bring in this part of the subject, because whenever someone started, for example, talking about a certain problem, I was in my mind processing, busy with a solution. And actually what that person wants was just a listening ear. So when someone starts talking to me about something, I try to ask about, what's your aim? What's the goal? Do you want to just to empty your heart, or do you want me to help you think about a solution? For me, it's very important to know that beforehand, because whoever starts talking about something, I already start throwing with solution number 1, number 2, number 3, and then the other person starts, you're not listening. And it's also great that you started about body language, because I think I was body language illiterate. I couldn't read the body language. For me, if I wanted something, and sometimes I could be very pushing, please, come on, let's go. And I see a friend, she was a little bit hesitating. Okay, not sure. Her body language is actually blocked. Actually, she wants to escape from an activity or something that I was bringing in. And I've been reading a book about body language. There's also one from there's a couple, Alan and Barbara Pease. I don't know if you know about them.
I do. Yeah, they're really funny.
They are so funny. I have read all of their books about the body language, and that was an eye-opening, because it's not only the listening skill that listening was not only my problem, but also reading the body language. And now I pay attention to the body language. I do listen. What is that person saying? But what is the body expressing? Because 70% of our communication goes through body language. And I was really illiterate when it came to body language. So it's very interesting to learn about that as well.
There's one thing I'd like to share, just to kind of raise a little bit of a giggle. And it is, when I describe it, you'll really recognize it. In the Indian culture, they do not like to say no. They don't like to feel that they can't help you or make it work. And this is particular in the Indian culture. Everything is no problem. So when you're asking them about solving a problem, they go, no problem, no problem, no problem. And I call it the wiggly heads. And it's actually the head saying yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, because they don't see, their culture is that they don't see anything as a problem because they can't say no. So they say yes, no, and that's how the wiggly head comes in. And so when you're looking at them, you actually see that, well, is there a problem? Is there anything that I can do to make it better? What else do you need? But the culture itself is that they can't say no. They're taught to say yes. Everything is a yes. It's just yes, when do you need this? But this wiggly head is yes and no.
Yeah,
thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, I'm sorry, Jar. I was just going to say the topic that we have for today is sleepless nights, caffeine overload, burnout, what you need to know. And I think everything that we're talking about today that you've been addressing really falls right in alignment with that. When we're not listening, when we're not able to read body language, we are missing cues, and that can cause a lot of stress. What happens when we're stressed out? We turn to bad habits. We isolate ourselves from other people, or we become overbearing with other people. So there are a lot of next levels of elevation that take place as a result of the foundational issue, which is listening. Thoughts, comments?
When some people can't function without a cup of coffee, and they would probably reach out more for a cup of coffee and skip their meal, skip a lunch or a snack. Now, what coffee does, depending how strong it is that it gives you a natural kick, a natural high, so you get more energy. And then it also plummets your energy very quickly as well. So if somebody needs, and you will hear people say, I need my coffee fix, it's actually causing you more problems, because when you have the plummet, when you have the dive in energy, that challenges you and what you're able to cope with, what your levels of stress and your levels of listening. And each coffee depletes 2 glasses of water. And the recommended is to have at least 8 glasses of water a day. So for every cup of coffee that you have, you're depleting 2 glasses of water. So you're dehydrating. So your body is in overdrive. It's working harder to overcome the excessive amounts of coffee, which drives you into burnout. And so that's how we get burnout, because we're not eating, we're surviving on coffee. And then our energy levels, our physical energy plummets, our mental energy plummets. So it's important to have an awareness of the fixes that we reach for, the coffee, the sugar fix, like the cake or the sticky bun, or the pasty or the pie, that will give us a sugar rush, but then we have a sugar plummet.
Yes, it goes up and it goes down. I just want to say thank you to our new follower. Hopefully you're following us. Archana, you are in midnight and you're going to sleep. Thank you so much for being here. Follow up. God bless humanity. May we all live as one human family. Yes, I love this. This is so beautiful. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much for being here. And we hope that you'll book an interview on our platform. Go over to usaglobaltv.com. Book your session. Okay, so Hajar, what are your thoughts about when you think about etiquette and manners and someone is not actually carrying themselves in the best way as it relates to that? How does that relate to burnout or to lack of sleep?
That's a pretty good question. Spoken about sugar and about India, about it in the Indian culture, I can't see anything. Is that correct?
We're still here. Yes, we have you on Spotlight.
Okay. Well, the funny thing is, spoken about Indian culture, I am of Moroccan descent, and what is confusing to me, because I was born in the Netherlands, I grew up. The Dutch culture it's a pretty straightforward, direct culture, A yes is a yes. A no is a no. And when I used to go to Morocco and I would ask someone something, they might say yes, but they actually mean no. And it was very frustrating for me. For me, it was like, if you don't like something, just say it. But it's very hard and for Moroccans, because it's similar to the Indian culture, to say no. And spoken about etiquette and manners. That is a pretty hard question. It's something I really need to think about. You know, I'm trying to process the information in my mind. But I think what I really do think, if people, especially young kids, start learning about etiquette and manners, and not just about how to use a knife and a fork, or but also learn about body language. What does that mean? Someone might say something, but try to read the body language. Um, Also about the healthy food, we spoke about caffeine and sugar. Just to bring in, I'm currently participating in a sugar-free challenge. So it's the 12th day I am not eating sugar. And imagine the first 2, 3 days, it was like I started understanding people who were addicted to drugs and alcohol, because it was hard. But after 12 days, I started um, thinking clear. So I think it's a challenge. I really do recommend that. It's a 21 day challenge that I'm participating on. But learning about etiquette, manners, and also the listening skills in the schools. Kids really don't learn about it. They have to listen to the teacher, but actually there's not a course about what does listening mean, because there are different stages of listening, like active listening, passive listening. And kids, they hear all the time, listen, don't talk during an explanation from a teacher, etc. And I think it's something we should start teaching young kids. If they learn this skill and it comes back every year, every school year, I think that will help them being aware um, of this, of listening, being aware of active or passive listening, but also about reading the body language. Because I do have certain kids that I teach who really do have a problem with reading body language. Sometimes I can be mad, and some kids, they can read me. They think they're like, oh, Miss Aituaba, okay, it's time to keep our mouth shut. She's mad. But some kids, they don't. They look at me, but they cannot read it from me. And yeah, and I think if we start teaching kids, making small modules, doing something practical, a workshop, starting small, I think we will gain a lot.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's perfect timing, because I wanted to bring up this graphic when it comes to educating children on listening skills. Caroline has given her support for a new book that's coming out. And the purpose of it is to teach children listening skills. So I am co-authoring a series of 7 books. I just want to bring up the book cover, hot off the press as of yesterday. This is the first book, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. And each character there in the book is an elevated listener, represents one of the team members who decided they wanted to be part of this wonderful opportunity to help children learn. So Caroline is the lead and head character in this, and she's the owl up at the top of the tree. I'm the ladybug, and each one of the other characters is representing one of our team members. So that book will be coming out in November. We're really excited about that. So we're close to the end of the show, and Hajar, what I'd love for you to share with our audience who they're meeting you for the first or second time on this platform, they're thinking, I want to hire her. What are the services that you offer, and how can people partner with you for those?
I'm offering etiquette training. It can be lady etiquette, it's social and business etiquette, but I'm also busy with creating a course about body language, about how to read body languages, but not only the body languages we do have in the Netherlands, but also internationally, because some gestures might be innocent in the Netherlands, but somewhere else it might be very rude. And people, they can reach out me, they can send me an email. I'm currently busy with my website. It's almost finished. It's www.schoolofetiquette.nl. They can reach out to me on Instagram. Whoever who is wishing to contact me, if there are people who have questions about certain topics in the etiquette, feel free to contact me, and let's have a chit chat.
And also for people on the radio, your Instagram is your Instagram
School,
account?
yes, it's School of Etiquette NL on Instagram.
Okay, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, Hajar, and I just want to thank you for your openness when I reached out to you and I said, I feel there's some synergy here. I'd really like for you to be on our team, and I'm very excited that you're here. I hope that you'll join our listening community and be on our game show. That would be so much fun as well.
Okay, well, I'm going to do my best to join. So I would love to, and thank you very much, and also thank you, Caroline. I'm looking forward to your new book.
Wonderful. And we look forward to having you back on this show or any of our other shows and helping support your work and getting the word out to people that etiquette isn't just about table manners. Table manners are important, but it's about so much more: emotional intelligence, civility, and respect.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good weekend. Caroline, it was great having her here, wasn't it?
Yes, it made a different dynamic. I had to listen, interact, and not, and it was a very interesting dynamic to have three of us together.
Well, and thank you. I had to step away for a few minutes, and you carried on very well with Hajar. So thank you to both of you for that. I'm sure you were like, where did she go? But so, and Caroline, I want to spotlight you. And again, thank you for being a part of this show and also for being part of the new book. It means so much. The book is dedicated to my great niece, Ella. And I'm really excited for an opportunity to interact with children and with parents to teach them, as Jar was saying, at an early age, when you're a young person, to learn those listening skills, and then you don't have to undo what you've already done as an adult. And that takes so much work, as we know, causes so much stress. Caroline, I'm going to spotlight you. How can people reach out to you, and how can they hire you? I know you have your Zoom consultation that you've shared with us. Tell us how else we can get in touch.
So you can reach me because we are a global audience here, and the phone calls can come at all sorts of times. So the best way to reach out to me is on my email, which is NoMoreStress, the 3 words, NoMoreStress@live.co.uk. And let me know when would be best to book in a free 30-minute Zoom consultation. If Zoom doesn't work for you, Skype, or indeed I have WhatsApp, but we can do all of that. We can arrange all of that via email. And tell me a little bit about what the problem is that you'd like help with. And I would look at 1 or 2 symptoms, whether it be emotional, behavioral, whether it's a mental issue like stress, anxiety, depression, or whether it's a physical ache and pain. Because our body is always talking to us. So what's your body saying? If you're having some problems in a relationship, reach out and let me take the stress out of your stress. So that's reach out to me via email and book in your free consultation. And if you want more, which most people do, then we can talk about how we can sort out a program to help you with more of your symptoms.
Lovely. Thank you, Caroline. And will I be seeing you on Sunday?
I'm actually going to be at a concert.
Woo! Very nice. You have a great time.
I'm at a reggae concert, which was cancelled last year, and it finishes at 10:30 on Sunday. So I'm afraid that I'm not going to be home till about midnight on Sunday. So I can't do the meditation, unfortunately. My apologies about that. But I
That's
will
okay.
definitely be here next Friday.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to that. And you have a beautiful weekend. And again, thank you for bringing so much value to the platform.
Thank you. It's always
Thank you.
my
Bye.
pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you again to everyone. I say this every Friday. I just cannot believe the gift that I've been given when I was in my corporate career for all those years. I learned so much, and I never realized that I wasn't following my passion. I thought I was, but when I ended up with a lot of health issues, I realized that wasn't the case. So now I found my passion, and I'm just so grateful to be able to interact with people like Caroline and Hajar and all of our wonderful team here at USA Global TV and Radio, and our guests. If you'd like to join us as a guest, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, book your session. Some of the shows are not open to the public because my co-host has decided that they have their own group of guests, and that's fine. Just book in on another show. There's plenty to go around. As I mentioned, I am looking for some additional co-hosts to help me with some of these new shows. So if you're interested, terms and fees do apply, but it's a great opportunity for you to get out there and start your television or your broadcasting journey. Thank you again. Our next show is coming up, and that show is Loving Longevity with my co-host, Annie Bush. So we will be back shortly for that in less than 15 minutes. Bye, Caroline. Bye, Hajar. See you later.